Okay, I want to carry on with our discussion for practice number 2, the hot stock. And let's talk about QPT, uh, the quantity profitability threshold. And the idea is this. In order for the trading mechanism to make any profit for you, all right, you have to buy a certain number of, you have to buy quantity, all right. See, what I mean is this. If you had $100, now you, to make this, to really give yourself a fair chance, you need like 3,000, at least 3,000 in there, okay? But if you had, let's say $100, and the hot stock was something that was like, you know, $50 a stock, you realize you could buy only 2 stocks, right? Then you're done, and you can't even buy that, because as soon as you try to buy 2 stocks, the online broker site is going to say we need $4 to make the trade. So really, all you have is 96. So let's just say you have $108. Okay. So you buy 2, and now you're down to $54 in your cash account. But you have no, excuse me, you're down to $4. But you have 2 stocks, and you bought at 50. Now the thing was hot, so it's going up. But you know what? A 10% jump is on a day is a huge thing. A huge thing. Now, the pros, okay, if they make a 30% increase per the year, that's fantastic. Okay, fantastic. But if they're trading 300 days out of the year, which is something that the middle class person doing it by itself is probably not going to be able to do, but if these pros are trading 300 times a year, and at the end they make a 30% increase total at the end of the year. For every 10 days, then for every 10 days they're making a 1% increase. Okay. Over 10 days they make a 1% increase. What you're asking a stock to do here, let's just assume it actually jumps 10%. I want to put that in perspective for you. How incredible that is to constantly find stocks that are jumping on a, or to buy in, and to have it go up 10% and then you sell. That's incredible. Okay, I mean, it's not unheard of, but to do it consistently, okay, that's very hard to do. All right. In fact, let me just take some time to throw a term out to you that you might be running across in these articles you're reading. The term is alpha. And alpha is, look, you know, if you're, you know, let's just figure out what kind of broker you are. Maybe you're bonds, maybe you're stock. Okay, if you're a stockbroker, you're doing the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the American Exchange, that sort of thing, just American stocks. From during the regular day, not extended hours, so from 9:30 to 4. If at the, okay, and you start January 1st, if at the average person that does this right at the end of December 31st of that year, the idea is if you have a 10% increase, that's pretty good. People, you can get people to give you their money to invest for you. A consistent 10%. Now remember, Bernie Madoff, who ran the Ponzi scheme, just kept everything at a 10%, or maybe it was 15, but it was like, or 12%. And he guaranteed everyone a 12% increase at the end of the year. No one questioned him because that was pretty good. Finally, one person said, you know, a real broker who was doing real trades, it would go up and down. Like you would get, you know, 8% one year, then 14% the next, then 20% a really good year, then 15%, and then, you know, maybe 5% depending on what the market did. This Bernie Madoff guy, it never did that. It never fluctuated. It was always 12%, 12%, 12%. And so they investigated him, and sure enough, he was doing a Ponzi scheme. But the idea was, with 12%, with that 12% promise, he was able to get billions of dollars in. Okay, so let's just say 12% is pretty good. But if you are someone, if 12% is the market average, okay, but you, in the way that you trade, can consistently, over like 5 years, show that you are getting like 20% back. Okay, if the average is 12, and after 5 or 10 years, you can consistently show on an average that for those years you got 20%. Your alpha is 8%. Alpha is the idea of how much better you are than the average. Okay, so there's a whole website called Seeking Alpha because they're trying to help people figure out how to beat the average. Okay, but the average itself is hard enough to get. It truly is. So if this were, now let's go back to this. If this were to go up 10%, which I'm telling you is a hard thing for a stock to do. Okay, considering all the stocks that trade on these markets. If it goes up 10%, it's at 55, right? Okay. Now you have only two. You have only two stocks in this. So it's going to go up 55, then it might come back down. And then it might settle down to 51, 52 for another 5 months. Okay. So now it might not. It might go up, but if you don't, if you decide I'm gonna actually capture this gain right here, and I'm gonna sell at 55, but you only have two, you made $10. See, you made $10, but you have to pay for the commission, so you really made only $6. Okay. Now, if it took you 3 hours to watch this happen, or two, or maybe 2 weeks, you know, do you and you put at risk $100? You know, is that wise? You know, is that the best way to use that money? You put it at risk, and you got only $6 back. Maybe you should have just raked your neighbor's leaves for an hour and got 20 and put the 20 into your stock account. Okay, you're just shuffled it off into that cash account. Then you would have gotten a $20 increase. So, you know, I know the principle is you need to make money off what you're doing here, and this is actually a good, you know, I would settle for that. But if I had only two stocks, I don't think I would do that. Okay, well, let's say the stock costs $50. Okay, what if you bought 1,000 of these? Okay, and you sold when it was 55. You realize that at that point you made $5,000. Okay, that's called leverage. There are two types of leverages. Okay, now that's one thing. That's one aspect of leverage, is that you have so much money in this that even a small little bump can bring back meaningful returns. So, you know, if I had 1,000 to sell, I would get 5,000. Then I'd have to pay the $4. So, okay, 4,996. Okay, but you know, that's certainly worth a couple weeks waiting and watching and paying attention to this to know when to sell, right? But in order to buy 1,000, how much money did I have to have in there in the first place? 50,000. And I had to be willing to put it all on one stock. And most people are gonna say, you know, that's not a good idea. Don't spend all your money on one stock. So just being willing to risk it all on one stock is risky itself. You know, you put that money at a lot of risk, and but you had to have 50,000 in order to get 1,000 stocks. If it's at $50 each. So how many middle class Americans are going to be able to start off with $50,000? Now, let's just say you start off with enough time so that you can. So you're 30, you're 32. You know, how many 32-year-olds for the middle class American is going to have $50,000 to put into a stock account? And if they're willing to put it all on one stock for a tip of the media, they don't know what they're doing. No, you know what? That's besides the point. That's not necessarily part of this method. Okay, but the risk would be, okay, but I guess we could call that as part of the risk. The risk could be, you know, for it to be a meaningful trade, you got to have the quantity profitability threshold. How many do you have to buy? What's the threshold for the whole thing to be profitable at the end? I mean, meaningfully profitable. And the idea might be, well, you know, it's all I have. But if I want to try to take advantage of this, I got to sink it all on this one stock, and that's exactly how you lose your money. I mean, quickly, because what if all of a sudden that one stock falls back faster than you expected, and you lost that window, and now you have to sell it at at 50. You didn't make anything, you didn't lose anything. Okay, but are you willing to sell at 50? What if you wait for a little bit because you think it might go back up, and then you end up selling at 48? See, then then you lost $2,000, and now you're at 48,000, and that was quick. Okay, so that's a problem inherent with all these methods, but the temptation, particularly for the hot stock, is that, like, oh man, this thing is going up, but I can't buy enough to make it truly profitable a trade unless I sink all my money to get enough. And then, see, that tricks you into putting all your money into one stock because it's a hot stock. The thing about it, the particular danger about hot stocks through the media is the pump and dump scheme, all right? Pump and dump. And pump and dump are usually originated from the street by unscrupulous traders, bucket shops, or someone who just somehow the rumor gets out that this stock is going up or somehow, and the people that are spreading this to get the stock to go up actually just bought it a month ago or a week ago, and they're willing to just get a 5-cent or a 10-cent profit on it, okay, because they bought a ton. See, so they have leverage too, and as it goes up, they're pumping it up. Now, the one way they can pump it up is they themselves say, okay, I say pump and dump. You get it started with rumors and all that, and that certainly can. It happens. Somehow something gets leaked to the press, or something gets spread about that they're going to change the CEO, or they're going to merge, or they developed a new product, and it could be just like some rinky-dink new chemical additive, but because all the press is touting is some new product with some people think it's more important than it is, and the stock starts going up, and people that are perpetrating this know when the stock, and when they stop, it goes up a little bit more, but they know when they want to sell, because they're the ones that are doing this, and as soon as they start selling, it comes back down. All right, they dump it, and so this could be a pump and dump. But the other thing is, you can do this very legitimately. Also, I'm talking about the pump and dump. If you just, for example, if you don't have to pay the commission trades, okay, and most Wall Street firms won't have to do this because they themselves are able to just trade, all right. If you don't have to pay those trades, then pay for those trades, then what you can do is take $1 million, okay. Just say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend this $1 million on this one stock. Let's say it's this one right here, this $50 one, okay. And I'm basically going to buy 1,000 lot shares at a time. And I'm going to start where it is right now, but then I'll be willing to pay an extra dollar, an extra penny, an extra penny, an extra penny, an extra 2 pennies, an extra 5 pennies, an extra 20 cents, an extra 30 cents. But it's going to be 1,000 at a time. But I'm going to spend the whole $1 million on this. Or I'm going to buy lots at a time. A lot is 100 shares. So 100 shares here, next 100, next 100, next 100, a little higher, a little higher. The market that's watching this is automatically going to see the price of the stock go up, okay? So when the price of the stock starts going up, people jump aboard and they start doing it. They start buying themselves. And as soon as that happens, the price is going to go higher on its own because people are jumping aboard this thing. So when the people that are spending $1 million run out of $1 million, they can still watch that stock climb, all right? And then they can sell it when it's up there, and they'll still make some money off it. So that's what you can do with leverage, and you can pump and dump legitimately that way, all right? You just have to be willing. You have to be a firm that doesn't have to pay commission fees to make the trade. But this happens all the time. So you got to be willing to say that hot stock is going to fall in like a day or two. Are you going to get out on time, or are you going to be tempted to let it sit because the media said it was going to grow or do this or do that, and you lose the window to sell, and you end up having to settle for a small loss, but it's a loss nonetheless, and it eats away at your capital. So there's some danger at the hot stock. We can discuss this more via email or this class discussion. I would say that's method number 2. It's time to move on to method number 3.